Hey, it's your guy Tyrrell back with the interviews. Zidane's return to Real Madrid finally hit a low as they traveled to Valencia and suffered a 2-1 defeat. How did Valencia do it? Where did Real Madrid go wrong? Don't worry, here at the interviews, we've got you covered. So on this edition of the interviews, we're going to briefly break down how Valencia upset Real Madrid. So before we get into today's video, don't forget to give our video a thumbs up if you do enjoy it. The bell below does give you daily notifications regarding our organic, unfiltered soccer/footy analysis. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel. In today's video, we're going to break down how Real Madrid looked to approach the game and why Valencia were able to stifle them until the 90th minute. Then look at Valencia and find where they were able to exploit weaknesses in Real Madrid's backline. But first, let's get to the starting lineups. We look at Valencia 4-4-2, Garay and Rodrigo up front, out in the wider areas, Guedes and Soler, and in midfield, Parejo and Kondogbia. Then we look to Real Madrid 4-3-3, Asensio, Vasquez, and Benzema up front, and in midfield, no real surprises, Kroos, Modric, and Casemiro. So now let's look to the first half, see how both sides look to approach the game, and why Valencia started so well in the opening period. So when we break down the opening half, we have Real Madrid in a 4-3-3 against Valencia's 4-4-2. And when we look at it, what Real Madrid were trying to do earlier on was they were trying to close down quickly, trying to ensure that Waz and Gaia were unable to really get onto the ball, close down the center backs, and they were able to push Modric and Kroos onto Parejo and Kondogbia. That did force Valencia into some issues. We saw Waz almost dispossessed by Asensio, and we saw that Valencia had to take a different approach rather than trying to bring the game to Real Madrid. They ended up dropping off into two banks of four without the ball, and they didn't do a bad job here. They were very successful. Kondogbia and Parejo were excellent protecting the back four, winning tackles, playing positive passes into the channels, and the wider players in Soler and in Guedes did a very good job as well, because when they drop off into a 4-4-2, what happens here now is that Garay and Rodrigo sit in between Casemiro. You have Modric and you have Kroos that are also pressed by Parejo and Kondogbia, but sometimes we saw Kroos drop off into deeper space in that left channel, which he often does to try and get on the ball without pressure. And that is when we saw Soler kind of tuck in to apply pressure onto him, which obviously did create space for Marcelo to push forward. But him and Odriozola were very cautious with their movement and weren't really looking to bomb forward. And whenever the ball was switched out to him, they were able to shift Soler over, and they had protection in Kondogbia who could come over as well. But that was very key, because when you look at the wider players, Benzema was really struggling to get into the game. He was dropping off deeper, sometimes moving to the left channel, but not really combining with any teammates that bisected the Valencia backline. And you had Asensio somewhat tucking in centrally. So even if Marcelo was maintaining a high position and Soler was shifted out to Kroos, you'd have Waz there. But for the most part, they were comfortable in wider areas. Soler and Guedes did a very good job in ensuring that the fullbacks didn't get forward. The central midfielders in Kroos and Modric were having problems connecting with Benzema and the wider players, and in trying to really provide those penetrative passes. And when you look at it, as they push forward, there was always a counter-attacking threat in the wider areas for Valencia to get onto. Think about Real Madrid. There was no real chances where they caused Neto to make any key saves. You could only think about the Kroos volley in that opening half where he was able to catch it easily. But this was about Valencia, just very organized. They had the wider players dropping off deep to double up if need be, but Madrid weren't really looking to get those overlaps down the flanks, and it was very comfortable for them. Asensio and Vasquez were very quiet, and their shape was just very impressive. And like I said, they offered a counter-attacking threat. So when we look to Valencia's first half chances, the first one does stem from Garay looking to press Varane, and with Odriozola a bit higher, he tries to play the pass into Lucas Vasquez, who is dispossessed by Kondogbia, and from there you have Guedes, who's able to hold off Vasquez, hold off Casemiro, and slide the ball across the stepping Ramos for Gamero to break into the box, but his back heel ends up halting the play. But just like that, you see fullback high, win the ball in midfield, quickly break, and there's so much space for Valencia to attack. The build up to the goal stems from a corner kick. It's cleared into the path of Guedes, who has Cruz stepping to him, and he bypasses him to play the ball to Soler, with Marcelo stepping to Soler, and Soler gives it back to Guedes, who isn't closed down by Sergio Ramos, and he wraps the ball around him to beat Keylor Navas at the near post. It doesn't really sum up what Valencia were trying to do, but look, Real Madrid aren't closing down. They're being bypassed with simple 1-2 passes, and that's how you get punished at this level. Shortly after that, you end up seeing Parejo from a deeper position getting onto the ball, and he slides it to Kondogbia beyond Cruz ahead of Benzema. And what we end up seeing here is that with Marcelo a bit higher, they're able to slide the ball across Rodrigo, who does dummy it, and it falls into the path of Soler. And now with Ramos often covering Marcelo's space when he is a bit higher, Soler is able to play that ball in behind Ramos for Rodrigo breaking forward. But Varane does get across to clear those lines there, and that's a great opportunity to kind of show how they're able to bypass that space. But Varane did a lot of great covering work, and that was one opportunity there where that did happen. Shortly after that, you have Garay stepping a bit forward because he's able to take his space, and he slides a pass in between Asensio and Casemiro for Soler, who slides it out into the path of Waz, who is breaking forward. You have Marcelo a bit narrow, and he's able to deliver a cross into the box that we see Rodrigo attack with Varane, and Varane clears it into the path of Kondogbia, and as Kondogbia breaks to it ahead of Modric, again, Modric not tracking the run, Marcelo not getting tight, Kondogbia volleys his effort inches over the net. But it's just the work rate and the fact that they're finding space down the channels in behind the fullbacks that Real Madrid were struggling with. The final opportunity, we see a squared pass to Rodrigo, who does drop off into a central position, and when he drops off into that central position, he's closed by Casemiro, and he slides the ball in between Odriozola and in between Lucas Vazquez for Guedes, and he delivers a cross into the box that ends up falling back to the edge of the box, and it's curled inches wide of the post. When you break down Valencia, you look at their 4-4-2, what it does really show is that they have threats in the wider areas, but they don't really have a pinnacle point that they can, a focal point that they can play the ball into. Rodrigo likes to drop off, Gamero isn't really spinning in behind, and the way that Real Madrid are set up is that they do have the numbers to cope with it. The wider players sticking to the fullbacks, Modric and Cruz stepping to the shuttlers, and you have Casemiro, who can stick with either of the players that drop off or if Guedes tucks in. But here that wasn't the case. The work rate was poor. They weren't offering much going forward besides Asensio getting Waz booked in the high pressure in the earlier stages, and they were being beat on the counterattack in the wider areas, and they weren't closing down their markers, and Valencia were fully valued for their 1-0 lead going into halftime. So now let's look to the second half, see what changes either side made and how Valencia were able to kill off the game. So when we look to the second half, Marcelino instructed his men to sit off a bit deeper into banks of 4, and Madrid continued to apply pressure by pushing forward. This time, like we saw towards the end of the first half, Asensio was much more narrow and closer to Benzema to look to provide more of a support outlet for him and to peg back Garay and Diakabe. And we saw Vazquez also narrow, which allowed the fullbacks to push forward. However, for Madrid, same issue, not getting in behind, not enough combination play, not finding penetration between a very organized back 4 of Valencia, and the midfield bank was very compact with the wider players, like I said, really closing down Madrid's fullback. So when we break down chances that were created, a lot of it stemmed, like the first half, counterattacks down the channels. We look to the first opportunity for Valencia, it stems with Parejo eventually winning and intercepting an Odriozola cross in the 6-yard box, and they were able to play out of that back comfortably. And then we see Parejo play a ball into the right channel for Rodrigo, running off Casemiro, and when he runs off Casemiro, he ends up running at him down that right channel and locating Soler, making a run in behind him. So the pass is played across Casemiro to Soler in right half space, and he fires a shot on goal that Navas does make a key save. Shortly after that, what we do see is again it's Parejo, and he ends up intervening once again in midfield, and it leads to Valencia playing at the back once again. A very tempting Diakabi pass to Waz that nearly is intercepted, falls to Parejo, and he locates Marcelo once again extremely high. And with Marcelo high, Ramos does tuck into that space. But what we do see is Rodrigo make the run off Ramos into that right channel to get Parejo's pass. And he runs that goal with Casemiro coming across, and he cuts in on Casemiro, and he cuts in on Ramos, and he drags his shot inches wide of the net. Two chances down that right-hand channel, Rodrigo making the most of it as a striker, dropping off to run across Casemiro, and that was pivotal. We look to one more opportunity where it's a Real Madrid cross that is cleared, and it's nodded into the path of Kondogbia, who brushes off his marker in Vasquez and cuts across Modric and Casemiro to slide the ball forward to Gamero. And when he slides it to Gamero with Ramos stepping, you have a 4v1. So Ramos does retreat and almost becomes a 4v2, but Gamero slightly overhits his pass to Guedes, who has to take a second touch to control it in half space, and he pulls it across goal for Soler, who backheels it tamely into Navas. Just like that, you're seeing three chances where they're able to quickly break into the channels in behind the fullbacks, and that was Madrid's biggest issue here, along with the fact that they couldn't create any chances. We look to Madrid, they bring on Isco, they bring on Bale for Asensio, and down the left for Toni Kroos, but they weren't creating much either. Same system. Both of them were involved in two crosses into the box. We had Bale deliver a cross to the far post for Benzema, but Gaia cleared it. We had Isco deliver a cross into Ramos, who towered over Garay, fouled him, but still nodded his effort inches over the net. And we look to Valencia still sticking to their system, and they made simple changes that made sense. They brought on Cheryshev down the left, they brought on Ferran Torres down the right-hand side, and eventually Mina came on following Garay's second goal to kill off the game from a Parejo corner kick where he towered over Casemiro to make it 2-0. Benzema, Real Madrid did turn to Mariano and to offer another attacking threat, but again, just not being able to get behind the Valencia backline, not combining well, no real cohesion, and a lot of it does stem down to Valencia being very great without the ball, but Madrid not that much better and really relying on individual brilliance to try and bail them out of it. And at the end of the day, Benzema did get a 90th minute header, but this game was a complete performance from Marcelino's men, who remain unbeaten in now 17 games and look to push for the top four. But let me know what you guys think. Will Valencia finish in the top four? And what about Real Madrid? This was their first setback under Zinedine Zidane. How many changes do they need to make this summer? Meet me in the comments below. Don't forget, I upload videos every day, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. And that was your daily dose of the interviews.